What's up? We're here for our weekly anchor message where we are getting our assignments, like our spiritual assignments for the week ahead. On Sunday, we get like an energy forecast for the week, and it gives us the general like spiritual weather. But then Monday, it kind of hones in specifically on what we're dealing with within the conditions. And then Wednesday is when we do like the look into our approach to the work and how we're unpacking that. And Friday is the reflection message. Tuesday and Thursday being Tuesday is the manifestation message of the week. Thursday is our romance message, looking inward to see where we need to grow in terms of our relational intelligence. And so, and then Saturday night is our Secret Teachings of Jesus episode every week where we delve into the Gnostic Gospels. So that's general rundown of our typical programming here on the channel. The blogs go out early in the day, and then I make these videos like late at night. So sometimes when I'm calling them like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday video, you guys might be seeing them more like Tuesday, Thursday, depending on if you're night owls, but which a lot of you are. A lot of you actually watch late at night when they come out. So I keep up. I keep an eye on it and see how many people are popping in, and always excited. All right, and then one other little update. So let's see. I am working on fleshing out my Substack and Patreon. Currently, right now, if you're on either platform, that's a good place to follow me if you want to see everything that I post, whether it's from the Elizabeth Rose account or this Liz Taylor Magic or Light Love Magic. All of my like spiritual creative content will be there on Patreon and on Substack. And so I am almost ready to it's almost finished, so I can start making paid content. But I just need to write out the automated emails, like the welcome emails and stuff for Substack. And then I need to figure out on Patreon if I have merged the accounts properly or what. Both of them have similar issues that are confusing. So that's almost ready. But when that comes out, it will be deeper teachings into the Bible studies that we do. I will be doing I will be taking specific spiritual concepts or Kabbalistic principles, and I will be laying them out in easier videos to search. There'll be specific videos, and then I can group them into series and workshops and things. So really excited about all of that. Both platforms, the monthly fee will be $6. So for less than a little cup of coffee, you can pretend, I'm gonna jump in and join this, and it's having a cup of coffee with Liz every month. It's not even you're buying me a cup of coffee, because that would mean that you're buying a cup of coffee and then you're buying me a cup of coffee, so it'd be more like a $13 or $14 outing. But if you're only buying your own coffee and just sitting there, that would be about $5-6, something like that. So think about it. I'll let y'all know as soon as that's ready to go. But you can be putting your dollars aside in anticipation and excitement. I know I'm excited. All right, so let's get into the reading. So our cards this week are the Healer, followed by Aletheia, followed by the Mountain, underneath the Healer, we have Three of Pentacles. Underneath Aletheia, we've got the Moon. And underneath the Mountain, we have the Feminine King of Pentacles. Now, remember, in this deck, the Mystical Moments Tarot, there is a Queen, there's a traditional masculine male king, and then there's an additional character who's the feminine king, which is like sort of like the highest mastered of both the feminine qualities and the masculine qualities of the suit. And they're like combined into one. All right, I'm going to pause this and let you guys listen to the quick audio, and then you can see the layout, and then we'll come right back. The recent Scorpio Flower Moon influence is in full bloom. Many revelations and growing clarity on how our unconscious inclinations are sabotaging our forward progress and cutting off the flow of blessings. We are also gaining so much more momentum as we submit to the trials that test our mettle, rather than wasting our light resisting them. We embrace all the soul collaborations around that stretch our faith and trigger our ego, because this is how we consecrate our consciousness to gain control over what has control over us. When we can master our inner demons, they become our greatest powers. Continue looking directly into uncomfortable truths. Feel the feelings. Watch for the following reflexive inclination. Now pause and disrupt the pattern. Dismantle the programming. Initiate a new way forward. Plant seeds of consciousness. The more you see a pattern running on autopilot, the less effect it has over your choices and actions. Through our diligent and persevering efforts to overcome these hurdles, we are building the qualities necessary for abundance, security, and stability. All right, so I'm going to start with our middle cards first, because Aletheia is the card of like a higher truth, like the highest truth. It's when we start understanding and connecting and embracing our own truth, but also when we have that kind of like experience with spiritual wisdom and spiritual truth, where it's like a lived experience, where this is something that we, like, once we see, we cannot unsee it, right? And once we have lived something and experienced that and have that wisdom, like we possess that wisdom through experience, it can never be taken from us. That's eternal light that's been revealed. So no one can tell you otherwise when you've had a personal experience with something, right? Like like other people not believing in God or in the supernatural world, you know, doesn't affect my beliefs because I've had my own personal firsthand experience. I know, I don't have any doubts. So it's like, because I have lived it, I know my truth and I can connect to that truth and embrace that truth and not be persuaded or dissuaded by other people's truths that they maybe want to project on me. And that's just like an example, right? But generally, I think that we are all gaining a lot more confidence and clarity in our own identity, our own perspective, our own being. You know, I think that we are less likely to agree or go along with something that we don't agree with. I think that we are less likely to bend ourselves into a pretzel to be what someone else expects of us. I don't think that any of us are at a point right now where we're still, you know, trying to people please in an authentic way, you know, that's not rooted in integrity and authenticity. And just generally, like, genuinely wanting, you know, to do something nice for someone. People pleasing is like transactional, and it's really just like covering your own butt. It's like your own insurance. It's actually, people pleasing seems giving, but it's actually the kind of taking, like it's giving that has taking attached to it. Because you're doing the people pleasing in order so that they like you or that they don't get mad at you or whatever. So it's sort of a tit for tat kind of thing. I digress. So paired with the moon card, I think it's very interesting because this recent flower Scorpio moon, like over the last couple of days, I've just been noticing like, wow, I feel like so much clarity like lately, and I'm not like questioning myself. I have a lot of confidence in that clarity, not like in a foolish, arrogant way where you're like, I know everything and you can't tell me, but like still open, like curious, wanting to learn. But I have confidence in myself and I believe in where I'm coming from, you know, like my backbone has gotten even stronger kind of thing. That kind of clarity. Seeing how things in my life have all fit together, even like the challenges and things that I've gone through have led me to this point and have built in me virtues and attributes and skills that I wouldn't have had otherwise, right? So I was thinking like, man, I'm feeling like a lot of clarity lately, and I think that other people are having a lot of clarity too. And I was like, what's been going on? And I forgot, oh yeah, we just had that big full moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is like the revealer of what's been hidden, right? Scorpio is the ruler of the occult, unknown things, hidden things. And so things that were not in our awareness are becoming very apparent. And the Taurus focus over the last week or so has been about exposing our natural inclination. So when we come here to incarnate on Earth, each of us has a big old soul workbook, and it's called our Tikkun Olam. It's our Tikkun correction. And we're correcting our soul. It's like we're bringing the varying attributes into balance and during each lifetime. And we are making up for negativity that we produced in other lifetimes and in this lifetime. And we are filling in the gaps in some of our, in our personality growth and our story arc within ourselves. So, everything that happens during our life is for the purpose of awakening ourselves to the tikkun that needs correction or awakening or light that needs to be revealed. So, the moon had just revealed recently our subconscious inclinations that have been driving us. So part of the tikkun correction is it's kind of like, it's not just cut and dry, black and white. It's sort of like very nuanced and custom and contoured for each person. And so basically, and it can get very nuanced and very confusing, like, okay, I know that I'm in a situation that's involving my tikkun, or else it wouldn't be so triggering. It wouldn't be like a pattern that keeps coming up over and over and over again. But what is the ask? What is the universe asking from me? How am I supposed to show up to this for it to be for me to answer this in a proactive way that's showing that I'm growing, right? Because for one person that might look differently than for another in the same situation. So how do we know that we are what the actual request is to fulfill the tikkun correction? And so a good rule of thumb is to check in with what is your easy nature? What's your natural inclination, right? Are you inclined to be passive or avoidant? Or are you inclined to be like over-controlling and very domineering kind of thing? Are you inclined to shrink away and make yourself small and be quiet and avoid confrontation and try to keep the peace and not use your voice? Or are you always using your voice and over speaking and making your words diluted and less concentrated and less powerful by misusing your words, right? And so maybe like for you, the tikkun is to take a step back, whereas for some it might be to speak up. So Our tikkun correction usually has us practicing restriction and pushing against what comes naturally, or what is our reflexive inclination, right? What are we inclined to do? And sometimes even that, where it takes some like real like self-evaluation and honesty, because even for myself, sometimes I go through these patterns and I'm like, okay, what is the universe asking from me in this situation? Am I supposed to speak up? Am I supposed to say something? Am I supposed to forget about it and let it go? Like, then am I being walked all over? Like what's the thing? What's the ask, right? So I think that this recent moon has really helped all of us see, to be able to dissect certain inclinations. And so basically what will happen, the kind of the pecking order will be, an event or circumstances will arise, and you will feel certain feelings about it. You'll think certain thoughts about it, you'll start feeling certain feelings. And then that's the trigger, right? You've been triggered. You've officially been triggered. The alarm's going off. Okay, I'm triggered. Okay, so what am I inclined to do now? Am I spinning out of control? Am I crashing out? Am I running to go talk to people to like vent about it and like, blow off some steam, but then I'm like running my mouth and it's turning into evil tongue? Am I a nervous wreck about something and I'm going to be impulse eating to try to like comfort myself or escape the moment? Like, am I inclined to feel like a certain amount of anxiety and then, go into total like hoarding mode and not like be able to meet my basic needs because I'm scared to like spend any money? Like think about when you're triggered, what are you inclined to do? I hear a lot of from you guys about being in recovery. And so this is really relevant for many of you who have been through treatment or like AA or things like that, to help you process, like when you have to slow down and catch yourself before you reflexively respond and you trip into like these patterns. And so it's like we're all in recovery. It's just that they have a really nice, like organized curriculum that is, like you can identify yourself if you have a substance abuse problem. You're like, oh, I need this program. It helps me. But like for those of us who don't have like an obvious, like thing that's sabotaging like that, sometimes it's not as obvious, and so we don't apply those principles, right, to slow ourselves down and think, okay, how am I being triggered here to fall into old patterns that lead to destructive behaviors or habits that then set me back, right? And that can be as subtle as going into like a low-level trauma response and then getting into your head and maybe going into like maladaptive imagining or ruminating or becoming limerent on a person. And so one of your so that's an example of a freeze response. So when you're in like a trauma response, you fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? So you either become confrontational and you want to fight, and you get more assertive and more aggressive when you're feeling threatened or traumatized, or you might freeze, and that can look like it can be mistaken for procrastination, but you're frozen. It's like you can't move forward. You can't. So you're just sitting there. You're like trying to do the task. You're going to the website. Then you get off on like going down a rabbit hole, or you just can't seem to like finish the task. You start to like go into like a trance or a daydream or whatever. So it's like you're frozen or you're overwhelmed and you can't make a decision about what step to take, right? There might be flight where you're running away from the situation, you're avoiding it, and you're doing everything avoidant, you're procrastinating, and maybe like not talking to someone that you need to talk to, or what have you. That could look different ways. And then fawning is when you are trying to bend over backwards to overgive in the situation, or be the thing that holds everything together, or be the healer, be the repairer, be the fixer in every situation, because you're fawning over the people within the circumstances in order to survive, right? It comes from, like, say you're in a family dynamic where you have to be the easy one or the convenient one or the fixer, everybody's helper, everybody's savior, because the family's dysfunctional and you're the one that can, like, ground it all and bring it all together. And so you've learned this pattern, you keep playing it out through your whole life, right? So that's why our tikkun correction can be very subtle. It can look different for one person than another, right? Whereas someone who's more selfish could be in the same circumstance and be, given a tikkun of, having more selfishness. So they need to do an act of sharing and do an act of self-sacrifice. There might be a person in the same room, in the same circumstances, whose tikkun is overgiving. It's on the side of, like, being too merciful. So they're always overgiving. They're always abandoning themselves and their own needs. So their tikkun correction in that situation might be to say, hey, I'm going to take up space here. I would like to go I will volunteer myself to do that. Or I want that piece of cake. Like, be the person that speaks up for yourself, that advocates for yourself. Whereas you might be the person that says, oh, everybody else take a piece and I'll take what's left. Oh, everybody else sit down and I'll just stand over here and eat with my plate in my hands. Like, take the seat. Like, be like do an alpha move, right? Like, take the food. Like, don't. It's not like you're doing this every time. It's not the new habit, but it's bringing more balance in. If you're always self-deprecating, if you're always putting yourself last because it starts to come from a place of not being as worthy as other people, right? And it can be very insidious because it can disguise itself as being, oh, well, I'm taking turns, I'm sharing, but you're not taking your turn ever. And so you're hinting to the world and to the universe and to yourself that you're not as deserving or you're not worthy, even though you might not think that in your mind. So it's, where you don't want to be extremes, right? So the person who's always like, me first, they need to take a step back. And the person who's always like, oh, you go, please, please. It's almost like these two people are going to be brought together because this person is going to have to learn to stand up for themselves and demand more for themselves. And this person is going to have to be realize that, oh, I'm being too selfish and self-centered and I need to make room for others. Does that make sense? So tikkun is different for everyone, but I think that we are all getting more clarity on being able to identify, okay, I'm in the trigger and now I'm feeling myself triggered. Now slow down. What is my reflex? Like, in this situation, what am I reflexively wanting to do? What is my autopilot, auto response, default setting want to do, right? Pause and don't do that behavior. Think about, though, when you feel those feelings of discomfort and then you want to do that thing, whether it's I want to eat to comfort myself or I want to go into hyper fix-it mode and control everything, right? Slow down, look at the inclination. What am I inclined to do? Okay, how has that pattern held me back in the past? How has that pattern controlled me in my life instead of me having control over my own choices and actions, right? Because when we are in the pattern playing out or the program is running, we're in default. We're in AI mode, right? We're robots. We're not using our free will. We're not being sovereign. That moment that we pause and then we can observe it and we can say, you know what? I'm not going to go onto autopilot. I'm going to choose with my free will how I want to proactively show up in this moment. And so the more and more and more we can recognize these inclinations and refine them and change them, the easier it gets. Like, the more you can identify the pattern and the program, the less effective it is, because the more like you're off put by yourself sort of just like falling into like an autopilot or a default setting, right? So you're like, oh, I'm a human being. I can think for myself. I'm actually not going to keep repeating the same story, the same mistake, the same experience over and over again. I'm going to do this differently, right? So then once we've slowed down and we start to appreciate, okay, so me and the overgiver and the selfish tikkun person have been brought together in the situation for healing. So we've got the healer and the Three of Pentacles. So then once we start slowing down and we start understanding, okay, I am in like a choose your own adventure, organic, like not simultaneous, but it's like a simulation, but it's like instantaneous, like it's like synchronistic with like what's going on in the moment. And so whatever we need to show ourselves our tikkun so we can start the work of repairing it, that's what the circumstances are going to bring. People, conditions, whatever it is, that those things are all written in your movie specifically for you, for the purpose of bringing your character to life so that you can shed the parts of yourself that aren't truly authentically you, that are the like sort of like the residue of programming and defense mechanisms and unconscious belief systems and all that. So we're getting rid of all that, purging ourselves of it. And the only way to do that is for us to be in these situations where we have these soul contracts that play out with one another. They're like soul collaborators. And they're like, okay, before, we all come to Earth, we're like, okay, let's run this through one more time, dress rehearsal. Okay, when we're in that situation at that point, like I'm going to do this thing and it's going to drive you insane. And, it's going to be, we're all going to play our part here to help each other along. But I'm going to be your antagonist. Later, you're going to be my antagonist. It'll be great. So we all know that we're all working together, even the people, especially the people that are on our nerves the worst. I've got a few of them, the people that are the most triggering for us are there for the biggest reason. And the faster we can see that reason and like come to a peace with it and embrace the situation for what it is. Okay, this is an opportunity, an assignment. And if I can change this quality in myself, not only will I feel better and I will be being a better person out in the world, but things will start to flow more in my life. Blessings that might be waiting to come in, or circumstances or opportunities that might be waiting to develop, are waiting for me to be ready to have the vessel that can contain those blessings. And so part of that is to correct this. So when we do correct these things, usually these things that we're looking for are the very things that hold us back. They're those things that keep us from saving the money that we wanted to save or from using the time wisely, right? How many times have I been in a low-level trauma response and I've had a dysregulated, nervous system? And I mean, this is the thing. Being in a low-level trauma response does not mean that you've been through an ordeal or you've had some kind of accident or anything. It can become like triggered on when your nervous system is dysregulated. So it can be happening all the time if you tend to have a dysregulated nervous system. And like learning about regulating a nervous system, it was something life-changing for me that's only been in recent years. But I didn't realize how most of my life I had been so on edge and irritable because I was in a low-level trauma response. I didn't even know. That helped me chill out a lot right there. So yeah, but my thing is that I will go into freeze and I'll either be really indecisive and I'll be frozen and overwhelmed, and I will overthink a decision and be too scared to like take the risk and make a mistake or whatever. It like blows up in my mind is bigger than it is. Or I will freeze and I will be in la la land, like in my mind, off in outer space, burning daylight and lose valuable time that I could be using building this channel, right? I mean, all of this takes quite a lot of time. Like sometimes I lose the minutes that I could have had like in the day to like say answer comments or whatever, just because it's like literally every part of my day is really like that allocated. So, not having the discipline of my attention span can be the thing that makes or breaks me as a content creator, someone who shows up every day to teach and talk about these things. So these things are not just holding us back. They're keeping our light smaller than our potential, than we have potential for, right? This is light that the Creator wants me to reveal. So I need to make sure that I'm being the best vessel that I can be to reveal this light for the Creator, right? So instead of being in circumstances that are irritating and, being like mad about the circumstances or bemoaning the circumstances or being like, oh, this isn't fair, I can't believe it's happening again, just like leaking all this energy, just fighting with the reality, rather than being like, oh, this is annoying, but I accept this is the reality that I'm in. So let's see how I need to interact with this reality to get to the next level. But it's not just about getting to the next level either. Like, life is about the journey. It's about being in the day. That's all we have, right? If we're rushing to the next level, it's like, well, you're just rushing yourself to the grave. There's nothing else. This is it. It's just process. As soon as you get a thing, you're dissatisfied with it. And you're like, well, when's the next process starting? So embracing it, accepting that the people and the circumstances around you are there for a reason. And the faster that we accept that, we can see them more clearly for what they are. And this helps speed up the healing process. And then finally, we've got the mountain card here, which this really reminds me of Mount Sinai. I see this as like Moses, and he's like entering into this place in the mountain to speak with God, the light. And so the Israelites were moving towards Mount Sinai when they parted the Red Sea, which we're still in the counting of the Omer, which is the gap in time between the parting of the Red Sea and receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. So when the Israelites got to Mount Sinai, they had to consecrate themselves. They had to purify themselves, and they had to prepare themselves as vessels to receive the Torah and the 10 utterances, the 10 commandments from God. And they were so unified, and they were so full of faith and certainty, and they were in such a state of unity that they were literally experiencing like miracles, as if that we had been restored back to the light bodies that we were in the Garden of Eden when we were eternal, and we had no ailments and no illness and no difficulties. And so this time, the counting of the Omer, which is the 49 days between the parting of the Red Sea and receiving the Torah, is it's like a yearly window of time that offers us heightened challenges so that we can see our inclination. Because if we can see our inclination and overcome it this week of all weeks, or during these 49 days of all the times of the year, it's so much more potent. It's so much more powerful. Even just being aware of these things and trying to take small steps, I've had like immediate like blessings and miraculous little turnarounds recently. And so it's exciting, right? It gives you incentive to want to keep on, to want to keep going. But and the overcoming our inclination and breaking these habits and breaking these limiting beliefs and facing these fears and doing the thing that scares us, it might feel like a mountain to overcome. Like we can't do this. This is a mountain. This is impossible. But we can, and we will. And faith, the size of a mustard seed, if it had the potency of purity, pure faith, the size of a mustard seed, could move this mountain. Jesus said, you can tell that mountain, get up and move into the sea, and it would do it. So looking at this mountain, it's not the mountain that it seems to be. It is and it isn't. We have more than what we need to summit this mountain. And when we do, as we take on these challenges, we become more and more this king, feminine king of pentacles, which is someone who's totally mastered their ability to stay on top of their affairs in life and to make sure that they are secure and stable. And this person has a growing sense of abundance and security and stability because they're on their shit. They take care of their shit. They've overcome the part of themselves that gets so close to having their shit together and then falling, back on old habits. And then kind of like spilling our milk everywhere and being like, oh man, I just made all this progress, right? I just got so far ahead in like saving my money. And then I made a big old impulse purchase that I didn't need. Now I regret. Or I did so good on my diet and I lost like 5 pounds and I was feeling good and I was feeling a lot of energy. And then I ate like really bad for 2 weeks and then stopped exercising. And now I feel bad again. And now I'm like feeling like the same as I was. It's like that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We can really overcome this and stop going back and forth and finally be in this state where we can keep growing and keep improving, right? And that's the only thing that separates us from this destiny. It's seeing that little inclination that keeps us sabotaging our own efforts. We're our own worst enemy. If we can overcome the demons within that keep us distracted, that keep us angry, that keep us lazy, that keep us tempted, that keep us like backsliding on our good habits. If we can overcome those demons, then that releases our ultimate superpowers, right? So embrace the opportunities to see those triggers that push the buttons on your inclinations and get that autopilot going. Look at the program that's about to start running. Look at your reflexive response. What are you about to do? Can you stop yourself? Can you reprogram? Can you dismantle those beliefs and those inclinations and those habits and reprogram them instead, using your free will and being proactive and rewriting your nervous system with healthy prompts, healthy habits, healthy inclinations? All right, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle message. We do have 2 full moons this month. There was a full moon on the 1st, so there's enough time in the month to have a new moon mid-month. And then by the end of the month, the last day of the month on the 31st, we have a second full moon. It's a blue moon. So that is going to be in Sagittarius, which it's funny too, because the other day when I left these out because I wanted to mention that when we have our Friday message, when we use the Radiant Sun Oracle, I remember thinking, I'm just going to assume that all of these astrological placements on the cards are going to be relevant. And I went back and looked and it was, because we had a moon in Sagittarius here, and then a lot of the other planets and like houses that are kind of coming into play, and that full moon were sort of like shouted out, referenced. So I thought that was interesting. Loved that. All right, you guys, that's all for tonight. I will see y'all tomorrow. Ciao.